Welcome back to Ducky's Travel. When you think of national parks, you usually think about, wide open landscapes, beautiful mountains, wonderful streams, and landscape for days. You don't kind of think about a park that's surrounded by another state park, residential areas, steel mills, and frankly, within sight of Chicago on a bright sunny day. However, that's kind of what you get with Indiana Dunes National Park. You get a park that is unlike any other park in the national park collection. We'll talk about it a little bit here today and talk about our visit here at Ducky's Travel. Before we get into the specifics of the park, I wanted to cover something real quick, and that is getting to the park. You think in a close urbanized area, right on the shores of Lake Michigan, it would be pretty easy to get to. And it is. It is really easy to get to the park. However, getting to the park is the issue. If you've ever driven in Indiana, you know the roads are just ridiculous. And the roads around Indiana Dunes National Park are no different. It was such a bumpy ride driving through the area to get to Indiana Dunes National Park. Literally, I thought I was going to need to do a realignment on the brand new van we bought when I got back because the roads were that bad. But fear not, once you got into the park unit itself, once you got into the different areas of the national park, the interior roads of the park itself are fine. Easy to get around to and easy to navigate. But the roads in Indiana, wow, they really need some work. And this pains me as someone from Ohio. When we crossed over into Michigan, I was never so happy in my life than I was leaving Indiana going into Michigan. But like I said, from Ohio, that's kind of difficult for me to say, but that is the truth. We recommend that typically the first stop of any national park adventure is at the visitor center. You can speak with the rangers there, get the lay of the land, get a nice park map. If there's any closures of any trails or any parts of the park that you need to know about, you can find out there. A lot of good information in most visitor centers. Some of them have a little museum and displays on the history of the area and kind of what makes it unique and what makes it a national park. So we always recommend going to the visitor center, and we did that. That was our first stop, was to the visitor center, and we also went to the Paul H. Douglas Education Center, which is on the far west side of the park. Both of them are fabulous. The Paul H. Douglas Center is more of a educational center. A lot of hands-on activities, especially for children. A nice boardwalk to walk around and some trails to explore at that center. We got a lot of good information. Like always, like I said, we highly recommend stopping at these visitor centers when you first get to these national parks, and Indiana Dunes National Parks Visitor Center, same way. Stop, get that information, get the lay of the land, find that wonderful information from the park rangers that are there, and from there you can set off to explore the different areas. So it was great. Would recommend these two definitely. Let's discuss what I alluded to in the intro was the most unique feature of this park. Unlike Yellowstone or Yosemite or a lot of those bigger parks out west, which are large continuous swaths of wilderness and untouched protected land, Indiana Dunes National Park is very fragmented and is surrounded by a lot of other things. You know, there are 3 or 4 little sections of the park, including like the Heron Rookery and a couple other areas that are absolutely completely separated and not attached to the rest of the park at all. But then in the middle of the national park, you have Indiana Dunes State Park. The national park kind of wraps around that, and unfortunately, there are separate fees to get into both of those. So you gotta pay twice if you want to go to Indiana Dunes State Park, as well as the fee to get into Indiana Dunes National Park. But like always, we recommend that you get that annual pass, or if you qualify for the access pass or the military pass, get those national park passes. They pay off tremendously, not only getting you into the park. Some of them offer discounts. The access pass offers you a discount on the camping, as well as sometimes in the camp stores and visitor centers as well. But the like I said, it's kind of fragmented and kind of surrounds the state park. Then there's a steel mill that surrounds or that separates the far western, the Douglas Education Center, from the rest of the park. And on the far eastern park, you get close to Michigan City, and there's a power generating station there as well. So you have all this industrial and residential and other park areas inside this park, which makes it completely unique and gives you a different perspective on how nature interacts with the urbanized and the other parts of the environment as well. So it's really unique. We saw a tremendous amount of wildlife, so the coexistence there of both the industry, the residential, and the park areas seems to be working out because it's such a unique area. Definitely national park worthy, definitely worth a visit. We definitely would recommend visiting here as well. Also, if you like these videos, be sure to like and subscribe to Ducky's Travel. The more you like, the more you subscribe, then I can keep making these videos. I still owe you a couple videos, and one is the walkthrough of the new van. I was going to do it when we were at the Indiana Dunes, but then I started getting into a lot of the systems of it, and I wanted to be able to adequately describe everything in the van, rather than walking around saying, hey, this is the refrigerator, this is where we put our clothes, and talk to you a little bit more about the system. So I'm getting that under my belt. I am working on that video, so that video is coming out as well. One of the probably most visited places at the park would be the West Beach. That is where you have these monster dunes that there is a path, a hiking trail that you can take up these long stairs. We didn't go up that area because you'll see. I'll leave some clips above. This is the West Beach in Indiana Dunes National Park on a very windy, rainy day. It's called an inland sea for a reason. The weather the day we were at West Beach was not cooperative at all. It was drizzling a little bit when we got there, and by the time we left, it was an all-out downpour that lasted probably 45 minutes. So it made the stay there not as enjoyable as it could be, but even then you could still see the beauty and the why that the federal government is designated as a national park and is protecting that area. But the West Beach is cool. It's got there's a bathhouse and a changing area there as well, a small concession stand, and a beach to access the lake, to swim in the lake, Wasn't open, the lake wasn't open for swimming while you're there, and there's lifeguards on duty as well. So it's a great place to take the family, go swimming, enjoy the dunes, and have a great time on the shores of Lake Michigan. This trip was a kind of a last minute spur. Embassy Vans told us, hey, your van's ready for pickup. Here are the dates you can do delivery, and what dates work for you. So that was our guardrails. And as you can imagine, with a lot of national parks, when you only have a couple of weeks lead time, trying to find a campground inside the national park is sometimes fairly difficult. A lot of times very difficult. And Indiana Dunes was no exception. They were completely booked the entire time that we were going to be up there. That's why we stayed at those Harvest Hosts. But we wanted to check out the campground and give you guys a good look. As you can see, the campground itself is very freshly paved. Probably this year, the way it looks. A lot of very nice level sites. The bathhouses, I don't think I took any pictures or video of those, but they were very nice as well. It is, again, a little ways from the rest of the park itself. To get from the campground to the West Beach and to some of the other areas in the park, you got to get up, you got to drive there. There are some hiking trails around the campground, but they're very small, short trails. So, to see the rest of the park, you do have to drive. It's not like some campgrounds where there's a lot to do right there in the campground. It's a little church right outside the entrance to the campgrounds, and then there's I think a couple of convenience stores outside the national park, but right outside the entrance to the campgrounds that you can visit for some camp supplies. So, but the campground is very nice. We weren't able to stay there, but if given the opportunity, definitely looks like a place we would stop and stay. So, it comes down to the simple question: would we recommend and would we go back there? Short answer: yes, we would. It is one of the closer national parks to where we live. There is a lot to like about it. Like I said, the roads around there are a pain, but it's part of life. Some of those things that you have to deal with. The park itself is very beautiful. We did some birding while we were up there, got a couple lifers, the summer tanager being one of those. So we'd recommend it. We would like to stay in the campground next time we would go up there. So maybe when we start to think about our next trip up north, maybe up to Isle Royale or Voyageurs National Park, that's a good stopping point at 4.5 hours away from where we are. So that might be another good stopping point for a trip to see those other two national parks as well. But we would definitely recommend spend some time there, hiking the trails, visiting the beach, swimming in the lake. It's a unique experience. It's a unique park, not like Yellowstone or Yosemite or any of those out west, but a lot of the parks on the eastern shoreboard are kind of like that. Cuyahoga Valley, Shenandoah, they're all kind of very close to urbanized areas. So they're a little different than the parks out west, but we'd still highly recommend them all.